Hello, and welcome to the Small Business Sweet Spot. I'm your host, Barb Davids, and this show is dedicated to helping small business owners like you get more organic website traffic, and also to help create and distribute content and analyzing the numbers so that we can make better informed marketing decisions. It is action-oriented, direct, and conversational. And if you've been looking for SEO or content marketing help, please stick around to the very end where I share about the group coaching program, Small Business Sweet Spot. I'm so glad you're here. Let's go. Okay, welcome back to the Small Business Sweet Spot. This episode, I am talking with aligned content strategist Emily Poe. I came across her Instagram channel and I just fell in love with her content and her personality, and I love everything about what she shares and how she explains how to share content specifically on Instagram with small business owners. So welcome to the Sweet Spot, Emily.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here and be able to share all of my thoughts on these topics with you guys and just really get into this with you.
Yay. All right,
Yeah.
cool. I'm going to read off your bio for the listeners, and then I will have you talk to them directly just so that we can hear from you specifically. Emily is a doula turned marketer living in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. She's passionate about helping you be you on social media and equipping you with the tools to create content that you love and that gets you results for your business. She is a full-time social media manager / copywriter. She is multi-passionate and also loves creative writing and poetry. She is a mom of one human, one dog, and 2 tarantulas, and lover of all things astrology and human design. So, with that, I have to at least ask about the tarantulas because it's a little scary to me.
Yes, I'm looking at them right now, actually. And yeah, they're babies. So we had 3. One of them just recently passed away because he reached his, full lifespan. I know. But we have 2 babies now.
Okay.
They're only about this big when they're really fully spread out. So they're pretty small. And they're just fun.
Okay.
They're fun to have around. They're really fun to watch them grow, and they're super easy to take care of, which for me was like,
Oh, wow.
that I was all for that. But they just stay
Yeah.
in their little plastic boxes. I don't touch them or engage with them really other than feeding. So
And does your human play with the tarantulas at all?
no. One of them has gotten out once before when we were like shifting him into his new home and the power went out and it was the whole thing. But other than that, no. They stay in there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh, very fun. So let me start with this then. I'll have you tell our listeners. You can share about what your sweet spot is, Emily, just straight from your mouth. Like, who do you help and
Yeah.
what do you like to do?
Yeah. So I mainly help solopreneurs who have a really big like mission in their business and really heart-driven, heart-centered people. And kind of the tongue twister that was there at the beginning of my bio, I like to help you be you on social media. And that's really my sweet spot is there's a lot of advice out there about what you should be doing on social media, what you should be saying, what type of posts you should be making. And a lot of times we take on all of that advice without taking into consideration what we want to do in our business, what we want to create and what we want to say. And I really think that, yeah, I could even use the word sweet spot again and say, we could find our own little sweet spot of how can we show up for our clients and, make waves in our business, but also like do it in a way that feels satisfying and aligned for us. So that's kind of my favorite thing to do is to help people find their message and share it in a way that works for them.
Yeah, I love that. I can really relate to that because when I first started my Instagram journey, I definitely thought I had to do all of the things that people
Yeah.
said, the dancing and the pointing and the whatever, but I still cannot do the pointing. Like I won't do that. And I will not put a Taylor Swift song on my channel.
I love
I know people love her.
I'm not a Swiftie
I
either.
don't have anything against her. Yeah, I don't have anything against her. That's not my
Yeah,
brand.
and that's the thing really is like if it's not your brand, then like there's no reason that you should do it. And there's just those
Mhm.
blanket strategies of like what people should be doing. It's just kind of as a content strategist myself, it feels like unfair because there's so many different things happening in different businesses. Some businesses are in a stage of growing, preparing to launch. Some are really ready to like rake in those sales and the temperature of every Instagram audience is different. And so it's just not, fair to like prescribe people what kinds of posts they should be making without taking into consideration like their own unique needs.
Well said. I love that. Okay, so I've got some questions ready for
Yay.
you. The first one, and feel free to elaborate as much as you'd like on these, or if there's another tangent that you want to go down, I'm totally happy with doing that. So, the first one that I have that came to mind when I was looking at some of your content and wanted to talk with you about is how do you approach or how do you even guide people, the solopreneurs, about the content creation and how to be magnetic and irresistible were your words. I love those words to who you help. So how do you pull that
Yeah,
together?
that's a great question. So, keeping with this theme of like what works for your business and what works for you, I think content that is truly magnetic and that is truly going to like hook into an audience and like really stick with them comes from you being passionate and also from like what they want to hear and making sure that it really resonates with them. So that's kind of the strategy piece. And then this other piece is like when we show up online and we're saying something that we really believe and that we're really excited about, people can feel that. And the other way around, when you're showing up and you're kind of sharing something because it's what you should be sharing, it's what, you think you should be saying and what you should be creating, like people can feel that. And it doesn't feel good. They're like, it's just, there's a disconnect versus whenever you're really in your passion and you're really like honing in on that, then people can feel that magnetism and they're like, ooh, I want that, and they then at that point, they might not even need to know all the details about whatever it is that you're offering. They just want to be in that energy, right? So it's like there's that
Hmm.
piece. And then there's also the strategy piece of like using words that they use, doing lots of market research to figure out like what is it that they're currently experiencing, what challenges, what desires do they have, like what are their dreams, and speaking to those with the exact words that they use to describe them. So that way, when they
Hmm.
read it, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel like you're reading my mind. And it's like, yeah, because I technically did. So, and it resonates with them. They're like, "Yes, that's how I feel." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, because I did the research." And so I think there's like a mix of saying what you love and being passionate, and then also like saying it in a way that's gonna really resonate with them.
That's great. I love that. I do feel like when I first started my business, I had trouble figuring out the words that people were
It's so hard.
using, even though I was in it myself. It's the
It is.
funniest thing. So that's definitely a good
Yeah,
one.
words are hard. Words are some of my favorite things. Like, in my bio, you heard I'm a copywriter and I love poetry and all these things. But sometimes getting those right words is a process, and it's okay to be in that and to be in brainstorming and to not quite get it. That's definitely
Hmm.
something you want to take your time with. So,
Yep. Totally agree. What strategies have you found are the most effective for aligning your creative process with your personal strengths and lifestyles?
that is such a good question. So, for me, the very first thing to start is like your expectations. I find a lot of people have these expectations of like, I can't start posting until I can post like 5 days a week or something like that. And a lot of the clients that
Mm.
I work with on the coaching side of my business are starting with posting once a week. And so it gives them that space to figure out like what are their gifts and what comes naturally to them and what's maybe more of a challenge that they have to like lean into and really refine without it being like so heavy of an expectation to post every day. So I think it
Mm.
starts there with like lowering your expectations and like simplifying a little bit and being open to your own unique process and not being bogged down with like what other people say is the right thing to do. I think also paying attention to like your natural rhythms and everyone's life is different. Like for example, I'm a single mom and so my kiddo goes to his dad's every 2 weeks. And usually at some point in that time where he's with his dad is where I'm like both creating a lot of content for my clients and myself.
Mhm.
Because then whenever I have him, I can focus on homeschooling and like having him with me and being present and all of that. So like that's my unique life rhythm and that's what works for me. And so looking at your schedule of like when do you feel the most creative? And then I also love breaking content creation down into like different steps. So I always say like a piece of content was not just like pull out of thin air, right? There's lots of steps involved. There's as someone who makes like a lot of content every month for my client, there's like the idea, which is often actually the hardest part, the idea and the strategy and really aligning that. Then you have to like do either the copywriting for the reel script or for the caption or for the carousel. And then there's like making the graphics or filming the video. And then there's like editing and then publishing. So if you break it down into these steps and kind of work out like, for me, I come up with my ideas usually while I'm on a walk or while I'm driving, which is really inconvenient when I'm laying in bed trying to sleep. And so I have a place to go like dump those and like have them ready for when it's time to do the copywriting step. So I think just being open to it not being a very linear process. Sometimes a piece of content, you might try to make it and then the idea is just not there, right? So you need to come back to it in a couple weeks. So just be open to it being like a flowy process and not something that's very like, I'm going to sit down for an hour and like work on my content. Like that doesn't work for everybody. So
Yeah, you can't make, I feel like, well, this is probably a discussion in and of itself, but I feel like you can't make creativity happen. Like it feels like it's or trying to be in creativity in the ideation stage, what you were talking about, like it came to you during walks or sleeping or something like that. Like that's why, because it gives you that
yeah,
space to think about it. Otherwise, you can't make it happen. Like when you sit down and think, oh, I'm going to
yeah,
make an idea right
yeah,
now.
yeah. That is
So
something that I'm like have
yeah.
been playing with lately and I'm like super interested in is like the actual process. And this is where my like hippie spiritual side comes in, but the actual process of like
Mhm,
creativity and inspiration and like where that comes
mhm,
from and like how we receive it. And yeah, there's been moments where, I've just somehow channeled some idea for an Instagram post that like does really well for my account, or like when I'm
mhm.
feeling really confident, I make way better content that does way. And so I think there's a lot to be said there for that. Like I don't fully understand it yet, but I'm interested in it.
There you go. I get a lot of my ideas on
Mm,
runs or also in the car, and I ended up having to do voice notes, but then my voice notes get so
mm,
long, and then I'm like, "Crap, now I've got all
mm.
of these voice notes that I have to try and get through and, like, listen to them and write them
Yeah,
down and see if they're still valid or
yeah.
not." So, where do you put your
So
ideas
for the
at?
longest time, I had a Google Doc literally just called content ideas. And it got
Oh,
to
yeah.
like 30 pages long. It was
Oh,
ridiculous.
boy.
Yeah. But I've used it for like a really long time, just the same one. But recently I've gotten a lot more organized and I started using Asana again, which is like a project
Okay.
management software. And so I've been using that. And the way I have it worked out is like I have, we can talk a little bit more about like what an Instagram content strategy looks like, but I have it basically organized into all the different pieces of my strategy. And so I can put different ideas for different pieces in the different like columns. And then when I'm creating them, I drag them over to like in process or like published. And so I'm getting a little bit
Hmm,
more of a system set up now, but for the most part, literally
yeah.
just a Google Doc type the idea. That's it.
Yeah,
Super simple. Yeah.
okay. And I'm happy to jump into that now if you
Yeah.
want. You referred to the Instagram strategy. Feel free to
Yes,
dive
I would
in.
love to. This is like one of my favorite topics to talk about, which sounds super nerdy, but that's okay. I'll own
It's okay.
So
Yeah.
I basically got into this because, as mentioned earlier, I was a doula for 5 years, and that was like my main passion and way of like serving the world. And I worked nights for like a year and got really burned out doing that. Go figure.
Mm,
And I basically had to figure out like what else I was going to do with my life since I needed to take a break from that and had these kind of natural like writing marketing skills in my back pocket that I had dabbled in. And so I started a VA business and a virtual assistant business that eventually I niched down into marketing. And what was happening is I was getting like clients for social media content. But
mm,
I could sense, I had the different ideas for my client coming in and I could sense like, okay, this is getting a little out of control. Like I need a better like system and understanding of how to categorize all the different goals, right? Because they're like, oh, we want to advertise this class or we want to make sure we talk about this part of our business. And I'm like, okay, I have like all these pieces now. And like, I feel like I'm just juggling them without any like process. And it was really overwhelming. And so out of that experience, I learned content strategy, which basically, sounds a little fancy, but simply put, it's just like different types of content based on your business goals that helps guide what you make so that you can actually like reach your business goals. And so the way that I see it, I've kind of coined it the content life cycle, but there's four main types of Instagram posts that you can make. The first one is attraction content. So this is keeping people like coming into your page, like reaching new people, because you can't just always be talking to the same people all the time. It's like you got to keep the water running, keep the life coming. And then there's storytelling content, which helps people get to know you better, humanizes you a little bit, bring more of a story to your brand so it's not just client centered. And then there is educational content. So that's like the how to, what is kind of content that helps you build authority and help people like feel motivated to really stay on your page. And then we have promotional content, which is like focused on your offers and talking about why you created them, why people should buy them, how they can work with you and stuff like that. A good content strategy rotates through those four different types of posts at varying levels depending on where you're at in your business.
I feel like that is super helpful to be able to break it down into those, like, I guess, topics or like themes. It feels more manageable to figure out what to do when you sit down and think, okay, well, now what do
Yes.
I do? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Could you walk us through your content planning process and how does it help you maintain a consistent marketing flow? I know you alluded a little bit to you have kind of like the 2 weeks and you sit down and you do things. Can you elaborate a little bit more on maybe the workflow that you
Yeah.
use?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, it helps me stay consistent because, like, I think where a lot of people, business owners get stuck is they maybe had a day where they were highly inspired or they saw someone else's Instagram and got, a kick in their ass to like really get up and make some content. And then eventually that like goes away. And so it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like there is a level to it where it's like you have to commit to like showing up. And that's why people eventually hire out because it is a lot of work. And so I think we have to be really honest with ourselves about like this takes time, it takes effort and takes intention. And so for me, this helps me stay consistent because I'm being aware of that and I'm like intentionally making space for it in my life, but so that I can like show up consistently. So my workflow currently is, yeah, like I have the ideas that come whenever they do at various times. And then I have the kind of tracker where I keep them noted. And then I sit down to create content and I kind of like will like clarify whatever idea I have a little bit more. Cause sometimes whenever I reach an idea, it's just, it doesn't fully make sense. And so I have to go back in and kind of get more clear on like what it is that I'm trying to make. And then put what format it'll be. So you could do like a reel or like a talking reel or like a B-roll reel or you could carousel. So I get clear on that. And then I usually start with filming. So for me and my brand, that looks like, sometimes doing my makeup and my hair and putting on something nice. And I bought a little microphone off Amazon, which has been very fun. And I film any talking portions. I use CapCut and film in there. And then I do one post at a time and just kind of go through and just get it done. So mine's pretty bulk, like I do it in bulk. Occasionally, I don't have something that I need for the post and then I just wait and do it day of. And I always publish day of. I don't like scheduling my posts because I notice that they get far less engaged when they're scheduled.
Well, that's an interesting
Yeah.
topic. Okay. Because I always hear like, and I have never tested it. So it's interesting that you said that because everybody always says, or at least so that far, this is the first time I've heard that the non-scheduling makes an
Really?
impact. Is it like reels or posts, or is there any particular format that you have seen?
Well, I haven't experimented with it that much, to be honest, because I take my content very seriously, not only because it's like what I do in my work, right? But also like I work so hard on it. Like I do not have time
Mm,
to waste a piece of content like that. It's just, I cannot do that. Make me so sad.
right.
And so I feel like I did it like maybe once or twice. I think I did a reel and a carousel. I think I've done both. And I just noticed that
Mm,
both times, like it did terribly. And I have a couple theories for this. I think that when we're not in the app engaging, like people are it's the way the algorithm works, basically. I probably don't need to get into like all the little details about it, but it's an algorithm thing. And the more present you are in the app, the more it's going to push your posts to other people.
yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. And then since you're on there, you're not scheduling it, you're on
Exactly.
there.
I'm already on there. I'm answering, and
Yeah.
that's my time to answer messages, get back to
Hmm.
comments from my post the day before, which really helped because then I'm like fresh in someone's notification. And then,
Hmm.
my post is more likely to come up in their feed again. So, and posting my stories every day too. So yeah, it's just kind of my time to like get in there and
Hmm.
do a bunch of stuff and then just kind of like set it for the rest of the day.
That's good
Yeah.
stuff. What advice would you give to someone struggling to bridge the gap between having a great offer and effectively marketing?
Mm. Ooh, I love that. Well, first of all, hit me up because we should talk. And second of all, I would say I've recently come up with this like messaging funnel that I'm really loving. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners like approach their marketing from the standpoint of their offers and they forget about
Mm,
the like overall mission of their business. And so this messaging funnel that I whipped up is basically like at the top of the funnel is your overall mission, like the transformation you want anybody to have that comes into your business, regardless of what offer they come in at. And like, what is that overall transformation you want them to have is like everything needs to tie back to that. So I think like getting clear on what that is for you, a lot of business owners really aren't clear on that. And so they have these different
mm,
offers and they're like, oh, they're not selling. And it's like, well, what are you doing? And they're like, I don't know. And so I think being clear on that is like top of the funnel. Like, what are you here to do is really important. And then I think like once you get clear on that, I think you'll be surprised at how much more flowy things feel for you. But that would be my starting point. And then on top of that, like just ditch perfectionism and just make some content. Practice makes perfect.
mm,
It's a muscle.
mhm.
I think content creation's like a muscle. So, you gotta practice and just keep going to get better at it.
How do you overcome the marketing ick and stay devoted to your dream on the tough
I
days?
love that question. And it comes back to that mission again. And I think there's even something on the other side of that, which is where one day when you get better at content creation and all of that, like, and you do get more visibility, it's really easy to get caught up in those numbers. That's something that happened to me recently. I started posting on TikTok and my like first TikTok got like a lot of views. And I was like, oh my God, like I was really happy about that. Right. And I even lost sight of my mission a little bit of like, and I'm here to help people. Right. And so I think like
Mhm.
same thing when you're on the other end and you're not seeing the views and you're not getting the results, like then you having that like marketing ick, just come back to your mission of like why you're here. Like you're here to help people do XYZ and just kind of trying
Mhm.
to stay like service oriented and staying in your heart about it. And then just like adjusting your expectations. Social media is a long game. It's not a post 3 times and get a client kind of thing. And so I think
Mhm.
like knowing that and being okay with that and giving your business other avenues of income or marketing, whether that's like networking or something like that, to make up for it in the meantime is also really helpful.
Good stuff. All right. Out of everything we've talked about today, or that you've talked about today and shared with us, what is like the one takeaway that you hope people walk away from this episode with?
Ah, just get started. Just get started. Don't be, yeah, just ditch the perfectionism. It's not helpful at all. And anyone that's gotten anywhere on Instagram really sucked at first. So
Mm,
just get started and
yeah.
it's always going to be changing. It's always going to be growing. And so just find your thing, keep coming back to what works for you and focus
Mhm.
on finding that.
Awesome. Great takeaway. I love that one.
Yeah.
And where can people find you if they have more questions, or do you have like a specific resource for them?
So when I was thinking of the word resource, one thing that came up for me, and this is not related to my business, I'm not even like an affiliate or anything. I just love sharing this. But CapCut is a really great app for editing reels. And I feel like that's where a lot of people get caught up, is like how to make reels. And so CapCut makes it really easy. There's even templates. But my favorite feature is that they have a prompter in there. So you can go in, it's on the very front page. There's like an arrow, it's hidden. So there's like an arrow, you have to press the arrow. And then there's a prompter in there where you can type in the script for your reel and then put your phone up to record and hit record, and it'll put the script on your screen so you can read it while you record. So it looks
Okay.
like you're just talking, but you're actually reading the script. And so I love sharing that because it changed my life, and everyone always
Yeah.
really loves that. So there's
Yeah.
one resource. But as far as connecting with me, Instagram is where I hang out for the most part. So I would love, love, love to connect with you guys on there and see what you're up to. I just changed my username yesterday. I'm in the middle of a rebrand. So I'm at content.with.emily. And I have some freebies coming out next week that are going to be really, really, really fun. So if you like free stuff and you liked this conversation, then definitely come meet me on there.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciated
Yeah,
this,
thank
Emily.
you so much for having me. This was so fun.
And that wraps up today's episode on using content to how it fits for you and your business with Emily. Stay tuned for more episodes on making your business thrive online. See you in the next sweet spot. Cheers.
Thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're looking for SEO and content marketing help, consider joining the Small Business Sweet Spot. It's a group coaching program where you can get answers to your questions about your business directly and clarity around the marketing strategies that you would like to implement in your business. You can find all kinds of information at compassdigitalstrategies.com. And if you like the episode, please tell a friend. Cheers.